The story begins at Seohan University, where our protagonist, Han Taesu, a 23-year-old student, is introduced. Two girls approach him cheerfully after hearing from a student named Yunhee that he has a reputation for flawlessly attending classes on behalf of others without ever missing a single session. They ask him for a favor, but instead of replying, Taesu just shows them a flyer for his proxy attendance service. The flyer lists his rates: 10,000 won for attending a class, 100,000 won for completing assignments, and a clear note that exam proxies are unavailable since it's illegal. Surprised, one of the girls questions the flyer, while the other asks if he really charges money for this. Taesu explains that attendance costs 10,000 won per person, but since it's their first time and they came through a friend's introduction, he'll give them a discount. The girls agree, thanking him happily and assuring him they'll rely on his help. Just then, two of his friends show up from behind. They glaze him for being so clever and say he seems to have a knack for business every time they see him. They even ask if he could help them out too. Without saying anything, Taesu hands them the same flyer. Seeing this, his friends laugh and jokingly complain that they don't even get a discount despite being his close friends. Later, Taesu is seen in class while the professor takes attendance. Quietly and without hesitation, he answers for his friends as well, covering for them smoothly. Once the lesson ends and the teacher dismisses everyone, Taesu slips out of the room right away. His friends notice and wonder aloud if he's rushing off to meet his girlfriend. They laugh it off, saying it's more likely that he's busy with some part-time job. Joking around, they add that Taesu would probably grab someone by the collar and shout that the money was worth 3 months' rent. They even tease that if he ever starts dating, they will do a naked break dance and upload it to YouTube. At this point, the narration shifts to Taesu's perspective. He reflects that, for college students without parental support, every moment counts. Survival depends on treating time like an investment. He returns home and checks the in-game gold price, noting that it had increased. He checks his phone and notes that tomorrow his class is at 11 a.m., so if he sleeps for 4 hours, he'll be able to play until 7 o'clock. If he farms about 1.5 billion gold in game, he would be able to earn more money. Out of everything, the time Taesu values most is his gaming time. As it requires no physical effort, he can play whenever he's free, and on busier days, he even manages to work on assignments while playing. Watching the screen explode during battles also feels strangely relaxing to him. Other players gather around, surprised at his performance. They notice that he hasn't spent any real money, yet still deals massive damage. Whispering among themselves, they recognize him as a well-known gold farmer, someone who sells in-game currency without spending actual cash. During this, another player named Fallen Power Angel, who has the character of a fat pig with wings, confronts him in-game. The player hurls an insult. "You jerk, are your parents odd-numbered or what? Who told you to hunt in our guild's area? Get lost while I'm being nice before I reduce your odd-numbered parents to 0. Taesu doesn't respond and continues playing calmly. The more he ignores, the angrier the piggy becomes, eventually unleashing a storm of curses, going as far as to threaten meeting him in real life and beating him up. The scene then shifts to a police station. It's revealed that Taesu has filed a complaint against the abusive player. There, the player is shown to be a young woman, frustrated as she insists to the officer that she didn't start the fight and was only provoked. Still, she ends up being scolded. At that moment, Taesu arrives at the station. The officer recognizes him and introduces the girl as the player behind the ID Fallen Power Angel, whose real name is Mia. The moment Mia sees Taesu, both of them freeze in shock. Their eyes meet and recognition strikes. Excited, Mia blurts out that it's really Han Taesu. Noticing their reaction, the officer asks if they know each other. Without hesitation, Mia confirms they do, revealing that Taesu is her ex-boyfriend. Taesu reflects quietly, realizing that the girl before him is indeed his ex-girlfriend from 5 years ago. Mia, she's the same age as him, went to the same school, and even sat in the same class. Back then, Mia was quiet and unnoticed, often spending her days reading alone in the corner. She was the kind of person you could pass by without a second thought. Ordinary, almost invisible. Taesu had approached her and placed a paper on her desk, stating that she should come to the library at 4 p.m. today. He had waved at her and whispered to her before leaving. She observed him for a moment. Then she held the paper close to her chest and smiled in happiness. Most of Taesu's memories of her had faded with time, except for one, the day they broke up. It was 27th of September, during the fall of their second year in high school, when her family suddenly moved away overnight. As he follows Mia out of the police station, that memory resurfaces. They had promised to meet that very day. He wonders why she left without saying anything, and for a moment, he considers asking her, but hesitates. Meanwhile, Mia mutters to herself in frustration about how ridiculous this situation is. After all these years, she now has to deal with him slapping a 100,000 won settlement right in her face. Taesu holds back his question, deciding this isn't the right moment. Instead, he studies her closely, asking himself if this really is the same Cha Mia he once knew. At first, he thought it was just someone with the same name, but now he knows it truly is her. He wonders how much a person can change in just a few years. Even people at reunions look different with time, but Mia feels especially unfamiliar. Not just her appearance, but her whole aura is completely different. She's nothing like the quiet girl he remembered anymore. Now she feels like a delinquent. Taesu thinks to himself that normally when someone says it's me, the natural response would be recognition. But with Mia, everything just feels strange. Suddenly, Mia spins around and confronts him. She demands to know why he's following her, accusing him of feeling guilty for demanding money over just a few insults in a game. She reminds him that they once knew each other and thought he would laugh it off if she played the old friend card. Instead, he asks for compensation, which she thinks is petty. Taesu wonders why she's become so talkative. Mia presses further, asking if he intends to apologize now. He replies calmly that he isn't following her at all. This just happens to be where he lives. Mia challenges him again, saying that while she might have apologized for the insults, she'll never forgive him for his bad gaming manners. She adds that he's only getting off easy because it's her. Taesu warns her that he feels no guilt. He even threatens to go back to the police station, reminding her that he gave her a discount, lowering the fine from 100,000 won to 10,000 won, just because he knew her. He suggests he could always raise it back. Hearing this, Mia softened a little and admits she doesn't even have 10,000 won at the moment. She asks if he can let it slide just this once, but Taesu refuses, insisting that he'll still take his 10,000 won. Finally, Mia gives in. She agrees to settle at 10,000 won, then adds that even with his well-off family, he's still sharp when it comes to money, someone destined to become wealthy one day. At that moment, Taesu calls her name. When she responds, he quietly asks how she's been all this time. Mia freezes at the question. Startled, Taesu notices and asks why she reacted like that. She explains it's because he has changed. He never used to care about others, and now suddenly he's asking about her. She insists that nothing worth mentioning has happened and there's no point in sharing. She reminds him that they won't see each other again, and as long as she pays the money within the deadline. That's all he needs to know. She asks him not to be curious about her, just as they had always avoided caring about each other until now. Finally, she tells him they should continue living as if the other doesn't exist. And with that, she wishes him well and walks away. Watching her leave, Taesu reflects that those were the last words of his ex-girlfriend, spoken 5 years after they had reunited. Taesu wonders if that's really all Mia has to say after so many years. He reminds himself that she was the one who disappeared without a word, and by all rights, he should be the one angry. He admits to himself that the settlement money wasn't because he needed it desperately. Rather, it was the only excuse he could think of to keep her around a little longer since he was never good with words. As he turns and walks away, He accepts that this is truly the end and that they will never meet again. But fate has other plans. 1 month later, at Seohan University, in front of the university, Taesu and Mia cross paths once more. Both are caught completely off guard. Looking at Mia, Taesu only manages to mutter her name weakly. Flustered, Mia mutters a single word under her breath. Again. The scene then shifts to later. In his apartment, Taesu stands by the window of his room, watching as a moving truck pulls up. A person is relocating into one of the nearby houses. Seeing this, he thinks to himself how surprising it is that someone actually managed to find a place like this at such a time, comparing it to obtaining an S-class item in-game. It had already been 4 days since the semester began, and this apartment was the only one-room place within 5 minutes of campus that had a 5 million won deposit and 500,000 won rent. Though a little old, the apartment's low cost and close distance to the university made it extremely rare and almost impossible to find vacant. Taesu reminded himself that most of the people living in this area were students from the same university. As his thoughts drifted, a familiar name surfaced, Mia. He wondered if she was commuting. The sudden encounter with her the earlier the day replayed in his mind. It had been so unexpected. He remembered how it happened. When he saw Mia in front of the university, he froze in shock, questioning why she was present. Mia, just as surprised, grew tense the moment she recognized him. Convinced he was stalking her, she felt disgusted. Panicking, she even reached for her phone jokingly, threatening to call the police, claiming there was a suspicious man around. Baffled by her reaction, Taesu lightly tapped her on the head and asked what nonsense she was spouting. He quickly explained that he was also a student there. Mia's eyes widened in astonishment when she realized he studied at the same university, more so when she found out he was in media and communication. Taesu, equally shocked, questioned if she was really in his department. If so, that would make her his junior. Coldly, Mia cut him off. She reminded him of what she had said before, that it would be better for both of them to act like strangers and mind their own business. Without another word, she turned and walked away, leaving Taesu standing there in confusion, unable to understand why she was so angry. He thought of how she had acted a month before. As those memories resurfaced, he forced himself to calm down and return to the present. He told himself to forget it, as he had promised not to care anymore. It was nothing but leftover feelings. Still, he couldn't help but wonder if the person moving in next door could possibly be her. He quickly shook off the thought, saying no way. That's impossible. Just then, the doorbell rang. When Taesu opened the door, he froze. Standing there, holding a plate with a cake, was Mia. She greeted him warmly, smiling brightly as she explained she had just moved in next door and hoped they could get along. Taesu just stood there, utterly bewildered. Mia, just as startled, blurted out that she had brought rice cake. Then, without warning, she suddenly shoved the plate onto his face. Taesu didn't even react, which made Mia's expression shift sharply and accused him once again of being a stalker. Taesu countered calmly, pointing out that she was the one who had shown up at his door. Suspiciously, Mia asked if the apartment belonged to a friend of his. Taesu replied that it was his own place. She then asked if he was planning to move out anytime soon. His answer was simple. He wasn't. Hearing his answer, Mia grew visibly frustrated, blaming herself for signing the lease so quickly just because the apartment was cheap and close to school. Watching her reaction, Taesu only grew more confused. But soon, Mia's tone shifted back to calm. She told him it would be best if they didn't bother each other. As neighbors, they should act as though the other didn't exist. Taesu, still stunned, reluctantly agreed, addressing her as ma'am. Suddenly, Mia picked up a fire extinguisher and reacted oddly, muttering that she felt like she just overheard something she shouldn't have. The sight of the cylinder made Taesu uneasy, and he hurried to shut the door. But Mia blocked it with her foot, refusing to let it close. He asked her why she was doing that, reminding her that she had been the first to call him Mister. But Mia pressed him to open the door so they could talk about what he had just said. Frustrated, Taesu snapped back, pointing out that since they were the same age, she was just as old as him. Then, narrating to himself, Taesu said that his ex-girlfriend, the one he broke up with 5 years ago, had just moved in next door. Her name was Mia. When the door opened again, Mia confronted him once more, accusing him of still not reflecting. She warned him that if he confessed now, she'd only kill him halfway. Taesu's thoughts drifted to the past. He remembered the place in which he had most often seen Mia, the library at sunset. That had always been his favorite time of day. But looking at her now, he couldn't understand why had she changed so much. What had happened in those years to make her glare at him with such hatred, as if she truly wanted to kill him? He tried to recall if he had done anything wrong back then, but nothing came to mind. She had been the one who made the promise, and she had been the one who never showed up. Sometime later, his doorbell rang again, pulling him out of his thoughts. Curious, he checked the camera and saw Mia standing there once more. When he opened the door, he reminded her firmly that they had agreed to act like strangers. But this time, Mia was drenched, her clothes soaked through. Looking at him helplessly, she called him a man from room 301 and asked if he knew how to check water pipes. Apparently, the entire floor had flooded, leaving Taesu stunned. He rushed over to check the problem and explained that it looked like a pipe had burst from the cold, advising her to call the landlord. Mia sighed, saying she had already tried calling, but the landlord wasn't answering. Frustrated, she muttered that if she had known this would happen, she would have just spent more money on a better place. Mia grew frustrated that such a problem had happened on her very first day of moving in. Watching her, Taesu recalled a time in the past when Mia had been shivering from the cold in a similar way. He stared at her without realizing it, and Mia noticed, growing startled by his gaze. She questioned why he was staring at her. Embarrassed, Taesu quickly turned away and denied it. Mia grabbed a room cleaning stick in her hands and insisted that he was staring as they had even made eye contact. She told him not to deny it and ordered him to try fixing the situation. He then notices her wet clothes as they turn see-through and reveal her big bare chest to him. Then she mocked him, making odd faces as she teased that he was really thinking of something strange at a time like this. Blushing, Taesu raised his voice in protest, insisting that it wasn't what she thought at all. Mia pressed further, asking what it was then. Cornered, Taesu stammered before blurting out with a red face that he was just worried about her. His words left Mia stunned for a moment. Gathering himself fastly, Taesu suddenly grabbed her collar lightly, telling her to come inside so he could give her something to dry off with. Mia questioned him, but he explained that if she stayed like that, she would catch a cold. Instead of accepting his concern, Mia struck him with a stick, shouting that she could just stay in her own place. Taesu winced at the blows, warning her not to swing it around since it was dangerous. But she kept hitting anyway until she finally calmed down. With a sigh, Mia admitted she was thankful for his help, but told him firmly that from now on she didn't want to owe him anything. She made it clear she wanted no further involvement. Entering her room, she ordered him to stop meddling and just go to bed unless he wanted his weekend ruined. Taesu asked if she'd be really all right once the pipe was shut off. As she stepped in her room, Mia froze from the chill in the air. Taesu pointed out that the boiler would stop too with the pipe, leaving her with no heat. Trembling, Mia stubbornly insisted it was no big deal. It was just winter. Watching her, Taesu muttered that she was really hard-headed. He added an offer to Mia. If you want, you can warm up in my room for 1,001. That way it won't be a favor. He thought that it was a reasonable price. Mia contemplated and said, there should be one more condition. That caught Taesu off guard. The scene then shifted to some time later. Taesu now stood outside his own apartment, questioning himself. Was this situation really okay? He had only meant for her to dry off and stay warm until the landlord arrived. But instead, Mia had paid him 3,001 extra to use the shower. As she bathed inside, Taesu waited anxiously in the hallway. He couldn't help but reflect on how strange it was. Just a while ago, she had been so guarded and hostile. Yet now, she seemed far too defenseless. More importantly, a strange feeling stirred in his chest. It wasn't excitement, nor anything pleasant. Rather, it felt like he was forgetting something very important. Just then, at that moment, two of Taesu's classmates arrived carrying drinks. One asked him about the flood, while the other teased him for showing up 10 minutes earlier than their planned time. Taesu suddenly realized with a jolt he had completely forgotten about this meeting. He stayed silent while his two classmates cheerfully chatted about the party. Their mood then shifted, turning sentimental as they explained how quickly they had rushed over after hearing that Taesu's hotel had been flooded. They called Taesu's room the guardian of their last train rides, their beloved hangout spot, and admitted they had worried it might not be usable for a while. Just then, one of them noticed water leaking from the neighboring room and remarked that it looked like a pipe had burst there, even though Haeun had told them that Taesu's place was flooded. The other added that Haeun had been especially worried, which was why they'd come to check on him. Hearing this, and glancing at Mia's room right beside his own, Taesu panicked inwardly. His mind raced at the thought of what might happen if they suddenly barged in and found Mia inside. If they realized that the girl next door was in his room, it would inevitably lead to trouble. To avoid that, Taesu quickly suggested they head out and drink outside that night instead. Nervously, Taesu explained that his apartment was a mess because of the flood, so he would treat them instead. His classmates were stunned. One shouted in disbelief, asking if he had hit his head, while the other questioned whether Han Taesu, the same guy known for splitting snacks down to the last piece, was really offering to pay. Both began teasing him, pulling his cheeks. One declared that they should take him to the hospital before it was too late, while the other wondered if he was even Taesu or perhaps someone in disguise, a predator or maybe an alien. Annoyed, Taesu demanded to know whether they were going or not. Overjoyed, the classmates eagerly agreed. They reasoned that if he was paying, they had no reason to refuse, joking that they might never get another chance to hear such words from him again. Relieved, Taesu thought the matter settled. He decided he would just finish cleaning quickly and then join them downstairs. His classmates began planning what they would buy with his money and were about to leave. Just then Mia stepped out of Taesu's room, announcing that she was done showering. Taesu froze in fear. Mia noticed his classmates and curiously asked who they were. His classmates got visibly stunned after seeing a girl coming out of Taesu's room after a shower. The exact situation Taesu had feared had unfolded. They grabbed him, demanding to know why such a beautiful girl was coming out of his place and asking who she was. One of them, outraged, accused him of leading an innocent girl astray. Flustered, Taesu quickly placed a hand on Mia's shoulder and claimed that she was his younger sister, his real sister. Mia herself was shocked at the sudden lie. His classmates, however, did not believe him. They shouted that there was no way such a pretty and classy girl could be related to someone as shabby as him. Taesu thought their words were a bit harsh, but knew he had to act fast. Mia shockingly whispered to him, questioning the sister remark, but he silenced her, insisting that if she didn't want more trouble, she should go along with it. He explained that they were his classmates, her seniors in the same department. Hearing this, Mia instantly played along, confirming to the classmates that she was indeed his sister. Her cute expression made the classmates start falling for her instantly. At that moment, a bang echoed from the wall as another girl entered the scene. Smiling, she questioned how she had never heard about this before, even though she's known Taesu Appa for over 10 years. Seeing her, Taesu's classmates were even more shocked. The girl pressed further, demanding to know what their real relationship was. She is then revealed to be Na Haeun, a 21-year-old girl from Taesu's hometown, a junior who had secretly loved him for 10 years. The scene shifts to the next morning at the university. Haeun confronts Taesu, pressing him with sharp questions. Are you serious? Did you really just make that up? Did you actually say that girl was your younger sister just to cover things up? Taesu replied calmly that he was telling the truth. Haeun pressed again, asking if nothing had happened between them and if he was being honest. Taesu responded casually, repeating that nothing had happened. Nearby, some university students whispered among themselves, speculating whether the two of them were together or perhaps even dating. Taesu's mind drifted back to the previous day's chaos with a burst pipe. Thankfully, the landlord had arrived shortly afterward, smoothing things over. Haeun reminded herself that Taesu Appa wasn't the type to lie to her. Taesu reflected inwardly, noting that the girl standing beside him was Na Haeun. She admitted that she didn't fully understand the situation, but since it was Taesu, she decided to believe him. She muttered that if it had been Monkey or Yanga Sunbae, she might have doubted it. But with Taesu, it was different. After all, she hadn't just known him for a day or two. Taesu thought to himself that Haeun was not only a university junior, but also a childhood friend he had known for over 10 years. She was the youngest child in a family of 3 sons and 1 daughter, all connected to a large taekwondo studio in their neighborhood. Even though Haeun was small, she had been born with talent and a natural knack for fighting. By 6th grade, she had become a local legend known for countless epic fights. People in their hometown had even given her a nickname, the Crazy Chihuahua of Gwangjangdong. As they walked toward the student council room, Haeun brought up something more pressing. "What about that girl?" she asked, pointing out that she was definitely Chamia. Taesu frowned. "Why are you asking?" Haeun explained that Mia had changed too much. Her build, the adult aura she carried, it was hard to believe she was the same person. Taesu tried to dismiss it, suggesting maybe she was still growing back then. But Haeun wasn't convinced. She pressed the point, saying it didn't really explain it. While the girls sounded and looked a little similar, she felt like she was staring at a completely different person. Then Haeun raised the real concern. Why did Mia disappear without a word and only come back now? You went through so much because of her sudden disappearance. At that moment, another girl walked in and interrupted, asking who had disappeared without saying anything. Startled, Haeun greeted her as Hisu Sunbae. This girl was Song Hisu, 24 years old. This hot chick was the student council president of public administration and also the girl Taesu secretly had a crush on. She greeted them both with a good morning and thanked Haeun and Taesu for helping out so early even though they weren't in the student council. Haeun reassured her confidently, saying she was fine with physical work. Then she turned to Taesu and asked if he was okay, wondering if he wasn't too busy with part-time jobs. Seeing his crush, Taesu felt his heart race and quickly replied, "No problem. I even quit all overlapping jobs today to make time." Hisu looked surprised. "Are you really okay with going that far?" Taesu reassured her not to worry, explaining that he'd recently earned some extra income. She smiled, relieved, saying it was good news. Feeling energized by her presence, Taesu insisted, "Just tell me what to do." Watching this, Haeun pouted in frustration. She was annoyed that Taesu only acted this way in front of Hisu and wondered just how much he was hiding. Together, Taesu and Haeun helped Hisu organize things. She gave clear instructions, pointing out where items should go and which ones needed moving. Taesu thought to himself about Song Hisu, his senior, and also the girl he liked. Of course, it was still a secret at that moment. Suddenly, Monkey and Yuna appeared, poking his cheeks and teasing him. Monkey smirked, pointing out how surprising it was that Taesu had even ditched his part-time jobs just to help out. Yuna added, teasing, "I thought you always said you never did unpaid work." Taesu thought to himself that especially these guys must never find out about his love life. Yuna smirked knowingly. "Oh, we know all about it. Must be because of a girl, huh?" Taesu's face immediately turned red with embarrassment. Young-ha continued, asking if Taesu had heard from Youngsik that this year's freshmen were supposed to be incredible. Monkey chimed in, saying their looks and backgrounds were on another level. But out of all of them, he said, "The girl you brought yesterday really stood out." Young-ha agreed, claiming she was his future wife and the most impressive. Then he remembered that yesterday, Taesu and Haeun had been together. Just then, Hyun appeared from behind, pulling Monkey and Youngha back. She hid her irritation behind a smile and said firmly, "Just get to work." They grumbled, but nodded, and soon everyone was working together efficiently. When the work ended, Hee-soo smiled warmly, announcing that the day's tasks were finished. She thanked everyone for their hard work and instructed the student council members to gather at the front gate by 7 a.m. She told the rest to come by 8 o'clock and again expressed her gratitude for their effort. Then she specifically thanked Taesu and Haeun for coming early despite not being part of the council. With a playful wink, she added, "After the MT is over, drinks are on me, so don't skip out." Taesu, fired up, declared passionately, "Even if I got into a car accident, I'd come running no matter what." Haeun, watching him, couldn't help but feel a mix of frustration and disgust at his over-the-top behavior. Hee-soo smiled awkwardly and told him he did not have to go that far. Later in the evening, Taesu returned to his flat. While unlocking the door to his room, he thought about Mia's sudden return and admitted to himself that if he said he was not shaken, it would be a lie. Still, he thought that Hee-soo Sunbae was great. And even with Mia back, his focus remained on Hee-soo. At that moment, Mia was passing by. When the two saw each other, they froze. Taesu's eyes landed on the large amount of snacks Mia is holding. He remarked that if she ate that much, she would get fat. Embarrassed, Mia snapped back, asking why he cared and insisted that she should be allowed to eat what she wanted. She explained that it was not as if she had bought all of it for herself, since with a bus ride to MT tomorrow, she was planning to share. Taesu scoffed, comparing her behavior to that of a grade schooler, and reminded her that they had already bought snacks and such with the club funds. Mia stopped in surprise and asked if he was going to MT too. Taesu confirmed it, and when she asked again in disbelief, he repeated an affirmation. Mia then requested that he not go, saying she did not want him to ruin her MT. She explained that he was a sunbae who must have gone plenty of times, and he could skip just one. As a freshman, it was her first MT, so she wanted at least that much. Taesu stepped closer and said that while they were at it, he had something to ask. Mia asked what, and he demanded to know what exactly annoyed her so much, what he had done that was so wrong, and reminded her that she was the one who had done something wrong. Hearing this, Mia's expression darkened. Taesu told her that if she was mad at him, that was fine, but she should at least let him know why. Suddenly, she slaps his hand away and glares coldly, admitting that he was right. She was the one at fault. She reminded him that she had told him not to act like he knew her. With that, Mia walked away. Taesu tried to stop her, but she left without responding. Left behind, he thought to himself in frustration about why it always turned out that way whenever they met. The scene now shifts to later, and the day of the MT finally arrived. Hee-soo was speaking to a group worriedly, saying that many people had decided to come last minute, leaving no room left on the bus. Because of that, she explained that two of them would have to go separately with her by car. It became clear she was speaking to Taesu and Mia. She asked them again if that was okay. Taesu and Mia looked at each other in embarrassment, unable to respond comfortably. The scene shifts to the bus. In the bus, the students were all on their seats, and Haeun sat quietly until her friend leaned toward her and asked what's up. Haeun brushed it off, saying it was nothing. But her friend teased her further, asking if she was uneasy because she could not see her husband, meaning Taesu. Hearing Taesu's name, Haeun blushed hard and looked both surprised and embarrassed. With her face still red, she stammered to her friend that she was talking nonsense, insisting that Taesu and she were nothing like that. Her friend watched her flustered reaction with amusement. Then she added that if it was about Taesu Sunbae, he had said he would be coming in Hee-soo Uni's car. Haeun, startled, asked nervously if that was true. Her friend continued saying that one more freshman would be there too, and that her name was Mia. The moment Mia's name was mentioned, Haeun's expression shifted to shock. At the same time, Taesu and Mia were indeed seated in Hee-soo's car. Hisu asked if they were both ready to go and if they had forgotten anything. Mia answered that she was fine, and Taesu also confirmed. Then Mia turned to Taesu, watching him closely, and asked what he was doing, addressing him politely as Sunbae. Taesu, wearing a helmet, explained that it was for safety and handed one to her as well, reminding her that life was precious. Mia stared in disbelief and asked why they needed helmets just to ride in a car. It's not a bumper car. Taesu, trembling, muttered that if it were a bumper car, helmets would not be necessary if it actually were a bumper car. His words only left Mia even more confused. Soon, Hisu started driving, and her reckless speed shocked Mia. By the time they reached their stop, Mia collapsed onto a bench, her condition poor from the overwhelming ride. She looked at Taesu weakly and asked if she had died. Taesu handed her a can of coffee and asked why she was basking in the light. Mia replied that she thought the Grim Reaper had just come down to take her. Taesu pointed out that now she understood why everyone else had rushed to get on the bus. Since every student from second year and above already knew about Hisu Sunbee's driving, Mia admitted with surprise that what bothered her more was the fact that even though Hisu drove like an F1 racer, the car did not even have a single scratch. She then turned to Taesu again, questioning what was with him since earlier and why he was giving her coffee. Taesu explained that it had been bought by Hisu Sunbae, not him. Mia raised an eyebrow and asked if that was really true, then told him to thank Hisu for her, but said she was okay because she did not like coffee. Hearing this left Taesu shocked. He asked if she really did not like coffee. A memory flashed back in his mind of when Mia used to gulp down the coffee he brought without hesitation. In the present, he muttered that it was strange, asking why he thought she liked it, reminding her how they always used to drink it at the park. Mia interrupted, suggesting maybe he was mixing her up with someone else. She added that perhaps she used to like it back then, but she did not really remember those old stories. With that, she rose from the bench and looked at him seriously. She said she was sorry, but did not want to get stuck in useless memories from the past. She told him that he knew better than anyone how tough things had been for her back then, and that whenever she saw him, those memories returned and drove her crazy. Still, she admitted that whatever the case, they had ended up meeting again like this, attending the same school, the same department, and even living as neighbors. Because of that, she said she would not ask him to act like he did not know her at all. Then she bows and pleads with him to treat her like someone he did not know, just like any ordinary junior. She promised to apologize for everything harsh she had set up until now. After saying this, Mia turned and walked away, leaving Taesu alone with her words. Taesu sat in silence, his thoughts sinking into the weight of Mia's words. He admitted to himself that what she had given him was a clear rejection, the most polite yet decisive rejection he had ever experienced. The Mia he once knew was no longer there. He wondered why she even claimed to remember him that time, thinking that if she had just acted like she never knew him, things would have been easier. Before his thoughts could drift further, Hisu appeared and asked what he was doing sitting alone on the bench. Taesu quickly replied that he was just watching the clouds. Hearing this, Hisu tilted her head, surprised, and asked if cloud watching was fun. After a pause, Taesu admitted to himself that it was not really that fun. Once more, his mind returned to Mia's words. He reflected that what she had said did make sense. People said even mountains changed in 10 years, and 5 years was more than enough time for someone changed too. The scene shifted to Hisu and Taesu standing together. She was speaking on the phone with Subin while Taesu, lost in thought, found himself gazing at her. Seeing this, Hisu turned to him and asked what was wrong. Her gentle behavior made Taesu blush for a moment as his heart began to race. Flustered, he quickly remarked that she had chosen a really nice place for this MT. Hisu brightened instantly, happily saying that she and Subin had put a lot of thought into it. She explained that it was their last gathering before graduation and they wanted it to be as memorable as possible. Hearing this, Taesu acknowledged her words, noting that they were spoken like a true Sunbae. Inside, His resolve grew stronger. He told himself he had only one goal: to confess to Hisu before she graduated. Even though Mia had returned, there was no wavering in his heart. The two continued walking together. Talking lightly, Taesu expressed concern about the expensive place she had booked, pointing out that he had come without paying. Hisu reassured him that it was fine, saying that after all he had done for them, this was nothing. Then she asked where the freshman was. Taesu replied that Mia had said she would walk around a bit and then come back. At that moment, Mia appeared dressed in a full game outfit with a helmet on her head and a hockey stick in hand. She asked if they were there and declared that she was all set. Taesu found her appearance odd, while Hisu smiled brightly, calling the new freshman a funny one. Looking at Taesu, Hisu then asked if her driving was really that scary. Without hesitation, Taesu put on his helmet and said it was not scary at all. Worried, Hisu asked if it was really that much. The scene shifted to the MT, showing Mia in rough shape. Other girls crowded around, asking what had happened to her. One of them explained that Mia had been this year's unlucky passenger of Hisu Sunbi's ride, and added that probably only Taesu could come out of it looking fine. Another girl muttered that unless someone was as unfazed as him, no one would last through it. Just then, Taesu felt a tap on his shoulder. When he turned, a cute girl was standing there asking if he had a moment. It was another freshman, Shin Dabin, a 20-year-old who had just joined the university.